This is a much bigger success. It's a success entirely of the armed forces. Modi wisely left everything to the armed forces. He should take credit for that wisdom, but he has a personality that makes it impossible for him to do so. He does not believe that people can think for themselves, even that particularly the poor. He thinks that he basically has utter contempt for them, and therefore he feels that their ideas must be stuffed down their heads. The more he talks about Operation Sindoor not being over, the more he endangers both India and his own position. The fact is, Operation Sindoor was limited from the start by the fact that Donald Trump receives every single tiny bit of information about any conversation by anybody anywhere in the world, which happens to be important at that moment. And the most important thing is that this is under a project called Eagle Eye, which covers the entire world. I'm afraid that the more he does of this natakbazi, it's not going to go down well.
Hello and a warm welcome to HW News Network, your one-stop show, truth be told, for some engaging and thought-provoking conversations. Prime Minister Modi has embarked on a new narrative by mixing politicization of Operation Sindoor and the caste census. Now, despite all questions around the ceasefire, Trump's mediation, foreign ministers guffaw on informing Pakistan before the military strike, Modi has held the mantle by his own hand. He has become the main rallying point, latching on to the valor of the armed forces. He has even silenced other BJP leaders. But how will this move by the Prime Minister help BJP for the coming months? Does it consolidate Prime Minister Modi's position? Does it consolidate BJP's position further? That is the million-dollar question. And if BJP becomes stronger, Modi becomes stronger, what does it mean? Does the opposition remains or looks like completely defanged? What happens to the narrative post Operation Sindoor? And what about the Hindutva project? Does it get more aggressive? What happens to the allies? We'll try and understand all these questions. Joining me this evening is a very special guest, a renowned author, columnist, and someone who's been an advisor to the former Prime Minister, Vishwanath Pratap Singh. Prem Shankar Jha joins us this evening. So thank you so much for joining on HW News Network on our special program called Truth Be Told. And my first question, sir, is about the image of the Prime Minister. Now, what Prime Minister is doing, going from one state to the other, holding rallies, sending out a message to Pakistan, the way he's welcomed, with posters of BrahMos missile, then posters of the Operation Sindoor, and then his entire narrative is around the word Sindoor. What is actually Prime Minister doing? What is the strategy in his mind, according to you?
According to me, he is overdoing it. He's overdoing it because he doesn't need to do anything. Remember what happened in Pulwama and the so-called surgical strike afterwards, which was nothing compared to this. And the vote of the BJP jumped by 7% between 2014 and 2019. This is a much bigger success. It's a success entirely of the armed forces. Modi wisely left everything to the armed forces. He should take credit for that wisdom, but he has a personality that makes it impossible for him to do so. He does not believe that people can think for themselves, even that particularly the poor. He thinks that he basically has utter contempt for them, and therefore he feels that their ideas must be stuffed down their heads. And that is why he's going around this. He's been doing this all the time. And don't forget, he did this frantically before the 2024 elections, and their vote came down by 2%, and they nearly lost. Had it not been for the stupidity of the Congress in alienating Nitish Kumar for no rhyme or reason at the last minute, the Congress would have been in power and they would have got all the credit for what's happening today.
I mean, how is the prime minister now going to spread this narrative? Does warmongering now become part of the election narrative? Because many people say that, in the coming months he will try and elevate his pitch on Operation Sindoor, and he'll do that, and he'll continue to do that, and he's already said that Operation Sindoor is not over, it is still on. So, in terms of narrative, how is BJP, or forget BJP, how is Prime Minister Modi going to weave his narrative? Because there was a bit of caste census also, that announcement came in between. So a mix of caste census and a mix of nationalism. What will it look like?
Uh, the more he talks about Operation Sindoor not being over, the more he endangers both India and his own position. The fact is, Operation Sindoor was limited from the start by the fact that Donald Trump receives every single tiny bit of information about any conversation by anybody anywhere in the world, which happens to be important at that moment. And the most important thing is this is under a project called Eagle Eye, which covers the entire world. Now, so therefore, he knows beforehand exactly what is being planned. And he has, if Modi now wants to go beyond this, he will find that the, Trump will start speaking in favor of Pakistan. That will not help anybody. And this is unlikely to happen. But if it does happen, it will only be because Modi is fundamentally incredibly insecure as a human being. He's insecure because ultimately he knows that he's not very highly educated. He only went through school and that was all. And we have, of course, this now degree of entire political science, but nobody believes in it. But the fact is that he should be actually sitting back on his laurels, because frankly, if he does that and just concentrates on real issues, he's in any case going to win the next election. And I'm afraid that the more he does of this natakbazi, it's not going to go down well.
But
one more thing. You see, people are not fools. Natak, they recognize as natak, particularly in the background of something as huge and as phenomenally successful, worldwide, success in terms of air force tactics. In front of that, what else can you say? Let the action speak for itself. It speaks for India. You happen to be the prime minister at that point in time. You happen to have taken the right decision of leaving this all to the armed forces. You don't need to say another word.
No,
but Modi cannot.
No, but it seems, doesn't it look like that Modi is becoming unstoppable now? And what will happen to RSS? All this talk that, RSS will ask him to step down once he's 75. What happens to all of that now?
I think that will be postponed at the very least. Okay. This is just not the right time for the RSS to demand his head. Even though it has a very, very strong ground saying that you yourself passed the rule and got rid of Advani and Murli Manohar Joshi. So the thing is, but in spite of that, so great is the national sense of pride, almost euphoria at this almost cost-free victory, because it was Pakistan that asked for a ceasefire first, no matter what the American input was, but it asked for the ceasefire first. Now basically it's understood that India came out on top of this. There's nothing more you need to do, really nothing. And Modi will only hurt himself. Frankly, I'd be perfectly happy if he does that. But the point is, you're asking me as an analyst what is likely to happen, and I've told you my views.
No, but no amount of criticism, it seems, is getting stuck on Modi. Whether there are questions around the ceasefire, foreign minister's guffaw, no amount of criticism is getting stuck on him.
What criticism? What are you talking about criticism? How do you criticize a totally cost-free victory? the so-called criticisms that the Congress is 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 launching at him are quite literally, I'm sorry to say, use this, are like the yapping of dogs in the street. It has
Okay.
absolutely no impact.
Are you
In fact, it
saying
creates the opposite impact
no? But
on
Mr. Jha,
people.
are you
No, no.
saying
I'll tell you what people are thinking, because I'm also an Aam Aadmi, you know, and I've talked to others. But what they're saying is, why on earth beat, flog an already dead horse? You
no?
kill
But I
the
want to
horse.
ask
Why
you
do
a
you want to flog
question.
it?
No, I want to come to that question where you said that the opposition is raising irrelevant issues and they are yapping like dogs. That's what you said. But my point is that if the opposition is asking, then why not call a special session? Why not call an all-party meeting and the prime minister should be present? Please answer on what and how much has been the loss on your side. Why has the foreign minister informed Pakistan? These are all questions which opposition has raised. Are these irrelevant questions you're saying?
They are irrelevant to the question of Modi winning or losing. They are questions being asked because no better questions can be thought about by the Congress, and it feels that if it stays silent, you know, it will in some way lose further. But I can tell you the kind of questions that are being asked can only annoy. They cannot promote any kind of thing. The truth is, I'm totally, if there's ideologically, I'm totally a congressman. I shall always remain so,
What kind of
because I have
questions?
known, allow me to say something. I'm now 86. I have known the Congress since Pandit Nehru, whom I had met twice in my life, Indira Gandhi, whom I met three times in my life, and Rajiv, who I thought was the most wonderful, nicest human being I've ever met in my life. So,
No,
with all that notwithstanding, I have to say what the Congress is doing now is literally raising issues that are for the country irrelevant.
no, but what kind of questions should a principal opposition party like Congress could have raised at this point of time in the middle of Operation Sindoor? They couldn't have kept quiet. They need to raise questions, which the doubts
Why?
which people have in their minds.
Why? After the 1971 war, did the BJP raise a whole host of questions? Why did you go in? Why didn't you go in earlier? Did anybody ask Mrs. Gandhi, why didn't you go in 6 months earlier? We know now. We know from Sam Manekshaw himself, and we know from subsequent history that he said, if you ask me to go in now, that was in July, then I shall resign. And he explained why, because the monsoons had made the land soggy, and and tanks would get stuck within the first 50 yards of getting into Bangladesh, and then there'd be, pigeons shooting ducks. Okay, now Mrs. Gandhi listened to that. She never had to say a single word after the victory. All she did was she advanced the elections by 1 year. That we have paid a price for it in terms of the monumental rise in corruption, with now having two elections every 5 years. But that was not her intention. And so the point is, okay, she made that mistake, but that had nothing to do with the Bangladesh war. And the point is, look at the opposition. They did not come and say, well, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? It actually doesn't matter. It's the result that matters, And the result, all you should have said was, we congratulate the armed forces. We congratulate Modi for leaving them to do their job. Keep emphasizing this, leaving them to do their job. Modi doesn't do that. He's doing the exact opposite. And this is the
But
only thing
Congress,
on which,
Mr. Jha,
please listen, this is the only thing on which you can strike a chord with the public.
no, but
Sorry. Okay, go
Congress
ahead.
has already congratulated and expressed solidarity with the armed forces. They are holding Jai Hind Yatras. Even today, they are holding Jai Hind Yatra. What else can
Very
they
good.
do?
Well, you're talking about questions, and I'm talking about questions in Parliament. And those questions are irrelevant. What they're doing outside, you know, congratulating the army, going to the homes of people who were involved. If anybody has been killed, I don't really know. As so far, you
No,
can
but say
definitely ask.
principle.
You can definitely ask for the data. There's a very legitimate question, but it is too early for the data to be given. It will be given one day. You There'll be a starred or unstarred question in Parliament, and the answer shall be given, exactly as it was in the case of Ahmedabad, of the Gujarat riots. But it took 5 years to get those figures out of Modi, and I think they're gross underestimates.
But
You know,
in the middle of Operation Sindoor, there was so much of Hindu Muslim, then pictures of Colonel Sofia Qureshi being projected in the press conference. Not that there was anything wrong about it, but the way the optics were played out in day before yesterday's Gujarat rally, her family was asked by the collector of Vadodara to come and shower petals on the Prime Minister. Now, this could be a smart optics by the BJP and the Prime Minister, but what happens to the Hindu Muslim narrative? Does it get more aggressive from here? What are we going to see in the coming months?
first and foremost, the decision to put a Hindu and a Muslim, both women, in the forefront of the armed forces victory, I will call it, was that of the army. It was not that. I know this for a fact from a very high, an air vice marshal in the Air Force, that this is a decision of the army, and it was a brilliant decision. You know, brilliant decision. But what the army is telling Modi is, please, for God's sake, don't communalize this. Our army is made up of Hindus and Muslims. They're prepared to give their lives, and you please do not at this moment say a single word against Muslims. Pakistan, as Pakistan, you can say anything you like. But that is the message from the army. It's not a doing of Modi, it's in spite of Modi. I guarantee you that.
No, but you are right in when you say that it was the decision of the armed forces. But now, how is Prime Minister Modi going to use it in the coming months? Does the Hindutva project of BJP get more aggressive?
Good point. That the second part of your question is something I really like to answer. I think that if Modi has, after the Dhoom Dham Tamasha Jo Abhi Ho Raha Hai, I think that after that, Mr. Modi will calm down, and this Hindu Muslim, he will actually stop the Hindu Muslim the confrontational dialogue that's been indulging in for the last 10 years, because I think he feels secure enough to know that he will come back to power now. He's had already the experience of Pulwama, and what happened afterwards, with that completely phony surgical strike and phony Pakistan counter strike. Both were phony. Not a single person lost their lives. It was all organized by Donald Trump. So this time, the best thing for Mr. Modi to do is just absolutely sit on your laurels and do nothing. But he will not do that. He is incapable of doing that. So we do not know what the impact of the impact of this will fade. There will be a lot of people who may be influenced by this tamasha, but there's a huge lot of people who are neutral who will say, what is the need for this? You may find that this can go both ways. And why is this man wasting time on something that is completely unnecessary? One village person of some repute asks this question, the whole village starts asking that question and says, oh God, he's right. Why is he doing it? So, it's not a tactic that is necessarily going to help him, but he cannot help himself. He is a showman. He knows perfectly well his own limitations. He has a group of very competent advisors around him, but who have learned a long time ago that the advice they must give is the best way of doing what he already wants. That includes everything from what happened in Ahmedabad or did not happen in Ahmedabad till today.
But this kind of a tactics and the whole lot of support Modi gets from the Modi media, where does it leave the opposition? And I'm just not talking about Congress, I'm talking about all the parties of the India Alliance.
The Modi media was very much around before the last election. And Modi lost 80 seats almost with a 2% drop in vote. Okay. Now, the Modi media's additional impact is exactly zero, maybe minus. Whether it's Ashutosh or you or Kapil Sibal's program, or I think Pranay Roy is still doing things. Those have, and of course Ravish Kumar, these have much more impact. I have seen Shashi Tharoor's statement in which he emphasized that he's come as a representative of Congress. You know, that statement was heard 431,000 times within 6 hours. 431, 500,000 times within 6 hours. That is the degree of interest that there is, and the degree of trust in this man's speech. And it was absolutely superb. And there was not one word extra, not one word of criticism of anybody, just explaining what happened and letting the audience draw their own conclusions.
So
That is
does
the way to go. But
so
Modi is incapable of it.
right. But even despite all the incapabilities, Prime Minister is trying to cover up all the mistakes which he has made or all the questions which are raked up by Congress. He's just trying to cover everything with this kind of a showmanship. Rallies, big jingoism, stressful, like emphatic speeches.
We have Right, well, Niru, we are 4 years away from the next election. By the time that comes, people will be sick and tired of what he's doing. If he has any sense at all, okay, do your abhi round kar lo. After that, for God's sake, stay put and do some real work. We have 83%. No, seriously, we have 83% of the people between 16 and 30 who have no jobs. They have changed the definition of labor participation, meaning the proportion of the population which is still in or looking for jobs. This had fallen from 57% in 2009-10 to 41% in 2019-20. Sorry, 18-19, the year before COVID. Now, suddenly it's gone up to 56%. Do you know how? It's because Modi's change got the people to change the definition of labor force participation by saying that anyone who's working on his own land without pay in agriculture is employed. So suddenly all these poor guys who've gone home and are helping to till tiny plots where they already have too many family members working, they are now self-employed. So, this is the kind of lies, being told through statistics. There's lies, damn lies in statistics. We've gone well past the lies and damn lies state. We're now in statistics.
But what happens to the allies now? Allies have no option but to surrender before Modi.
You mean Modi's allies?
Yes. No, Modi's allies. Yes. Chandrababu Naidu, Nitish Kumar.
The point is, they now know, just as I do, that they are on a winning side. To create, first, they gave the Congress every opportunity to create an alliance. The Congress systematically destroyed those opportunities. All they needed to do was, in the end, they asked for nothing. Nitish should have been the convener of the alliance because it was he first in 2017 and then in 2022 who raised the issue of a grand alliance. And he did it in Patna in 2022. Okay, now Nitish Kumar, all he wanted to do was to be the convener. It has already been decided that who will be Prime Minister will be decided after the election if we win. And that will obviously be the person who has the largest number of votes. It would be a congressman. So this was what he was asked for. He wanted a status and recognition, which he could use in his own country, in his own state, for example. Then there was he was not given that. Then he said, at least don't send this Bharat Jodo Nyaya Yatra through Bihar. If you get any votes from this, they will only come from us. They won't come from the BJP. So what you will do is you will make it more difficult for the JDU JDS combination to win, and not easier. When he was treated with contempt on that, he said, okay, go to hell, and went back to the BJP. He didn't go back happily, which is one reason why Modi gave 59,000 crores of capital investment to Bihar. This is bribery by government to government. Okay. I'm sure Nitish will use it well. So it's not a question of bribery in the ordinary sense, but it's
Yes.
political bribery. All right. Now he did the same thing on a smaller scale for a smaller state to Andhra, 19,000 crores. 16,000, no, 56,000, 59,000 and 16,000. Yeah. Okay. Now that was that. But now that he doesn't even need to do that. The other thing that he's done wisely, I think, is he's gone for this caste census in order to distract attention from the fact that he's going back on the issue of delimitation. Because five states in southern India had made it categorically clear, if you go for delimitation, we will leave India. And you cannot use the army against us because the army is us. We are part of the army. The army is recruited from every single part of the country. Army has told every army chief, and I know this personally from the Ayodhya situation, that they told Narasimha Rao then, please, whatever you do, Mr. Prime Minister, there, don't involve the army.
True.
So the armed forces. So this is something that Modi must bear in mind, and if he does, well and good. In the meantime, however, if he does, his position is much stronger because the allies now need him. He doesn't need
Yes.
them.
True.
That's the difference.
So my last question to you, Mr. Jha, is that which means that Operation Sindoor has made Prime Minister Modi now unstoppable, and he grows
Yes,
bigger and bigger from here.
the only person who can stop him is himself. He can keep going up
That's not happening.
after leaders of the Congress, etc. Nobody likes it. Secondly, he has done nothing for the economy. The data we're getting is cooked up. I know that for a fact as an economist and as a former member of the UN the Economic and Social Department, in which I prepared national income accounts year after year. So I know how it's done, believe me. And there is no way in which, Mr. Modi can benefit from this kind of, you know, fake statistics. The truth on the ground is young people are desperate. And he has no policies for them today,
Right.
except Musalman Kumaro.
Absolutely.
And
It was
even that,
one.
I can tell you, I guarantee you one thing, he is not going to use this anymore because he
Right.
feels much more secure.
It was wonderful talking to you, Mr. Jha. Thank you so much for joining on HW. Thank you.